Hi, this is Ed Driscoll. Welcome to Silicon Graffiti. John McCain recently issued an amusing YouTube clip highlighting the media's ongoing love affair with Senator Barack Obama.
I have never in my career, Howard, seen networks, magazines, newspapers just throw aside any pretense of objectivity. They're in the tank, as far as I'm concerned, Obama, and they are trying to get deeper in that tank.
If you say anything about their love interest, they get very red-faced and angry and emotional. They can't really think logically about it.
Wow, he's gonna cry.
The ad ran the same week that the New York Times spiked McCain's op-ed, a rebuttal to an op-ed by Obama, which the Times happily published earlier in July. After viewing the ad, Michelle Malkin quipped, "Hell hath no fury like a Maverick's burn." And while McCain may have initially counted on the media support, he really should have known better. While the media loved Maverick in the 2000 primaries, at least compared to that Bush guy, and for iconoclastic quotes afterwards, when presidential elections start in earnest, the MSM knows which party they're backing, and they're not afraid to let you know as well. And in case anyone is surprised by the bias the media has displayed this year towards Senator Obama, they need only go back to the last two presidential elections to understand that this is nothing new. Here's how the presidential race of 2000 concluded, with some thoughts by an anchorman who 4 years later told USA Today that, quote, "I am not politically motivated, not politically active for Democrats or Republicans, and that I'm independent."
19 days after the presidential election, Florida's Republican Secretary of State is about to announce the winner as she sees it and she decrees it. The believed certification, as the Republican Secretary of State sees it, is coming just hours after a court-ordered deadline for counties to submit their hand count and recount totals. She will certify, as she sees it, who gets Florida's 25 electoral votes. What's happening here is that the certification, as the Florida Secretary of State sees it and decrees it, is being signed. And after this, it will be in at least the opinion of the Secretary of State that the results will be final.
Dan's tone in November of 2000 set the stage for 2004. Desperate to see a president who many in the media, like Dan, considered illegitimate lose his re-election, old media really let it all hang out. Only that year, for the first time, there was a new media that was recording their actions, both for the present and for posterity. I'm standing in the vast EdDriscoll.com Hall of Archives. Stored on these giant mainframe computers is the entire history of mankind, or at least those bits of it which we could quickly find on my own blog and the rest of the internet, particularly the archives of the Media Research Center. So let's open up the memory hole and find some of the more definitive examples of bias from 2004. On July 25th of 2004, Daniel Ockren, then the ombudsman of the New York Times, wrote, "Is the New York Times a liberal newspaper? Of course it is." As I wrote at the time on my blog, Ockren's admission has repercussions throughout virtually all of America's media. For example, the New York Times finally admits it's liberal, but still carries the motto, "all the news that's fit to print." What does this do to the folks who claim that because Fox sometimes tilts to the right, don't tell Geraldo and Greta though, that they shouldn't be using the line fair and balanced? Also in July of 2004, Evan Thomas, the assistant managing editor of Newsweek, said on the Inside Washington TV show,
"Let's talk a little media bias here. The media, I think, wants Kerry to win, and I think they're going to portray Kerry and Edwards. I'm talking about the establishment media, not Fox, but they're going to portray Kerry and Edwards as being young and dynamic and optimistic, and there's going to be this glow about them this summer that's going to be worth a collective glow, the two of them, that's going to be worth maybe 15 points.
But these were just warm-ups during the pregame show. The real fireworks began after this moment.
I'm John Kerry, and I'm reporting for duty.
I served with John Kerry.
I served with John Kerry.
John Kerry has not been honest about what happened in Vietnam.
He is lying about his record.
I know John Kerry is lying about his first Purple Heart because I treated him for that injury.
John Kerry lied to get his Bronze Star. I know. I was there. I saw what happened.
As Glenn Reynolds wrote at the time, Kerry played right into the Swiftettes with all of that stuff about Vietnam and medals. Blogger Lori Bird called the first ad the most devastating political ad I have ever seen, bar none. The Swiftettes and their allies were incensed over Kerry's most infamous moment and the lack of 2004-era media recognition thereof.
They told the stories of times that they had personally raped, cut off ears, cut off heads, taped wires from portable telephones to human genitals and turned up the power, cut off limbs, blown up bodies, randomly shot at civilians, razed villages in a fashion reminiscent of Genghis Khan, shot cattle and dogs for fun.
Fellow Vietnam War vet John McCain condemned the Swiftettes ads, but they were certainly news. Not surprisingly, though, the Swiftettes message was largely embargoed by a media desperate to keep control over the election's narrative arc, and they were only able to gain traction through the use of the internet. While silence was golden in the era of 3 television networks and a single newspaper per big city, it's a lot harder to keep the genie in the bottle in the era of the internet and the blogosphere. As Dan Rather found out, much to his chagrin.
Today, on the internet and elsewhere, some people, including many who are partisan political operatives, concentrated not on the key questions of the overall story, but on the documents that were part of the support of the story. They allege that the documents are fake.
Charles Johnson of Little Green Footballs simply fired up Microsoft Word to its default template, typed in the text of those documents allegedly from 1973, and voila. And if old media weren't afraid to let it all hang out during the election, they certainly weren't afraid to tell you how they felt about its results.
When you tell me let the states decide, that scares me, okay? I got a little map here of pre-Civil War free versus slave states. I wish you could see it in color and large. But if you look at it, the red states are all down in the south, and you have the Nebraska territories, the New Mexico territories, and the Kansas territories. But the Pacific Northwest and California were not slave states. The Northeast was not. It looks like the map of 2004.
Perhaps the most cogent reaction from inside the media bubble to what had occurred during 2004 came from Newsweek's Howard Feynman. At the conclusion of the 2004 presidential election, he wrote, "A political party is dying before our eyes, and I don't mean the Democrats. I'm talking about the, quote, mainstream media, unquote, which is being destroyed by the opposition, or worse, casual disdain, of George Bush's Republican Party, by competition from other news outlets, led by the internet and Fox's canny Roger Ailes, and by its own fraying journalistic standards," end quote. And their audiences know it. In 2007, Diane Sawyer told her colleagues on Good Morning America,
I wanted to sit on a jury once, and I was taken off the jury, and the judge said to me, can you tell the truth and be fair? And I said, that's what journalists do. And everybody in the courtroom laughed. It was the most hurtful moment I think I've ever had.
Imagine being treated that way by your viewers. It's enough to really make an anchorman bitter and cling to his teleprompter, if not his guns and religion.
Thing sucks!
Well, that's one man's opinion. For everyone else, we certainly hope you enjoyed this edition of Silicon Graffiti. I'm Ed Driscoll.